Good afternoon. I'm Jimmy Ralph, the CEO of Board of Advisors, and we're here at the Ritz-Carlton in Las Colinas, Texas for our quarterly meeting. And we've got 100 or so entrepreneurs down the hall from us, but we stole a minute away here for me to talk to one of our very important networking partners, and that's Jeffrey Hayzlett with C-Suite. So welcome, Jeffrey, aboard.
Good to be here, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Anytime you can show up with a board of advisors, it's a good deal.
That's great. Glad you feel that way. And it's. I think this will be a lot of fun because we do some similar things, but different things, but still in the same space where we're trying to help other companies be successful. And when we help other companies be successful, we're successful. Yeah,
well, it's about right now, and it's a race to riches in the niches. Everybody was chasing these eyeballs in years, and now it's about, how can I get special and something different? And that's the way it's always been. And we just spend a lot of money the other way. Now we're getting a lot smarter. We're starting to follow the things that are out there for us. So.
Yeah, it's all about the folks that can take the nutrition that we feed them with relationships and so forth, and then figure out how to get their business to the next step. And
that is the key, though.
Self-propels.
That's the key. Is will the dog eat the dog food? Right? Mm-hmm. Will they take what you do? And what you do see in groups like Board of Advisors or many of the other great groups that are out there, peer-to-peer councils, really good peer-to-peer councils, and we, C-Suite Network, we try to bring those key ones together under one big umbrella. So because we're all connected, we all from some similar DNA. You and I have run successful businesses, but we've never met each other, but we talk the same language. And it was like within minutes, we knew what each other was saying, and we get it. And and when you've been through those kinds of things, you can see that, and you can see some real good experience on that.
Right, we were talking about that when we got started. That we're going to a business meeting together after the podcast,
totally right.
And we'll have half the business meeting done by the time we get done with the podcast.
Without question.
But now that's what makes it so fun, and I think we're both like-minded in the fact that our clients' success and our partners' success is our success, and that makes it a really easy business to understand. Hard to execute, but easy to understand.
But it's good to have people like you and Mike and the whole team, Kevin and everybody, because if you've done it before, you can do it again. I bought and sold over 250 businesses in my career, about 25 billion in transactions, built, brands out at a big level, Fortune 100. And, even when you walk into a room of people you don't know, you can separate those that are haves and have-nots pretty quickly. You can separate those that are just real ballers, those that are really moving at a higher rate of speed, almost at a glance, or you can almost smell them, so to speak. And that's what I think is real important, to have good counsel. A lot of groups offer advice. A lot of consultants offer advice. Well, advice is given by people who've never done it before. And what your audience wants, what the people that want to be successful need, they want counsel. And counsel is given by people who have been there, done that over and over and over again. And that's what the value of a Board of Advisors is. That's what the value of groups like that, peer-to-peer counsels who get in. And what's very unique, and I've sat in your meetings and participated, and it's just been wonderful because you do get an energy from it as well. So you get motivation, inspiration, but you get education too. And I think that's very important. So, because it's not always what to do. Sometimes it's what not to do. But you only get that when you get in groups like this, where they're true masterminds of the old day masterminds, because they're just modernized. But you come in the room, you take the armor off, and you sit down and you listen and participate, but you learn how to pick up the right things and not to do the wrong things.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of felt like I was groomed for this. I bought not nearly as many companies as you have, but I've acquired a number of companies and then done roll-ups where we acquire lots of multiples.
Right.
The last company we were in, we acquired something like 34 locations, or 34 companies with 170 or so locations in a period of 36 months.
Yeah.
So, we've been through that and done that. And we've seen, and then you really realize, what the industry is like, what the entrepreneurs within the industry are, and so forth. And there's so many key learnings that come out of acquisitions. Some of them good, and a lot of them bad that you can fix, and that's why we buy them, right?
And some bad that you can't fix. You get behind, and it wasn't what they really said it was. I think the most I ever did was 118 in 1 year, and which is a lot. And that was a $2 billion roll up. That was a pretty big one. So.
Yeah, we did a lot of ours in the last company, which I've done this several times. But in the last company, we had we had the advantage of doing a lot of it during COVID. So we always had plenty of room on the airplanes and on in the airports to get around during that.
Yeah. Oh, somebody was bragging that they hit 1 million miles. I go, oh, really? Okay, I've got 5 on this, 3 on this, and 2 on this. So that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Yeah, that's when Mike and I got together. I'd been a member of Board of Advisors for 10 years, so I understood it from the inside out or the outside in. And when we got to talking about it, I said, "My gosh, I've been just like you've been through a lot of the things that our members are going through or about to go through." So it just seemed like a match made in heaven, and that's what we're having fun with now. So,
well, you can, and you guys in the new team, I know I won't say the old team, but the original team, the OGs, and then this new team that you guys have brought in has just been a breath of fresh air, I think, too. Bringing some systems, some business to it, because. Look, a lot of the groups like this start off as one-man bands or, one-person bands, and they've really got to add all the other things that are important to be able to scale the business. Just like a normal business. What I mean by that, the entrepreneurial business, everything starts off as a one-man band. And then you add devout followers and you go like, hey, you can balance a checkbook. You're the CFO, and then now you got to get to those skilled practitioners. And a lot of companies never make it past that second level, the entrepreneurial journey. Because, you want to start really making it big. You've got to go out and get the right kinds of people and connect those things together. And again, like I said, a lot of it's what not to do,
Right.
Yeah.
No, and I've from the very beginning applauded Mike. Not Mark, Mike.
Well, Mark too. I don't
know who Mark is. But I've applauded that. Of course, I've known Mike for 11 years now, and benefited from Board of Advisors in all of my companies. And but for him, he was the one-man band, and he built an incredible business as one man, and that is very, very difficult to even get it as far as he did.
It's really hard.
That's what. But the bravest thing he ever did is accepted the fact that he wanted to make Board of Advisors bigger because bigger is better. It's a networking community.
Right.
And the more highly talented, experienced people we can bring in, the more value the existing members get. And he knew that was the key, and was brave enough to bring not only me in, but then I brought the rest of my C-suite with me that had been with me for decades, buying and selling and running companies. And so it was just I brought my CFO and my COO, Chris DePasquale and Kevin Killer, and they came with me, and we don't even have to really talk. We all know what each other are doing.
That's right.
And then Mike's just doing what he does so well, which is promoting and networking. And but that's a really hard thing, as you've experienced, for an entrepreneur to make that decision to relinquish some of that control and try and have that trust. So that's really a unique thing.
It's like a teeter-totter. On the teeter-totter, you got to push on one end, something's got to give on the other. If you want that, you got to give on this side, and that's not everybody learns that.
Right.
And that's a sign of a smart business person. So, hats off. And you guys do a lot of smart things. I mean, the way in which you run the meetings, the way in which you do the things, you've got a lot of things. You got a great app, which is amazing. And then, of course, what you're doing here with the media, too. The media is a big piece of it.
Well, that's great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Talk about C-suite. I'm so intrigued because I think we're getting ready to go down the hall and do a deal with you guys and Board of Advisors, and so this is great. We can get started on that because it's very interesting. I mean, we're similar and dissimilar in the fact that you're a Goliath in the industry. We're smaller, and really curated, and I think the economics are different, which is fine. So we serve different purposes. I think maybe for some of the same people.
Always the same people, because if it's trusted executives in the C-suite at some level. But you want to look at the C-suite network as like the Sequoia tree. And if you've ever been in the redwood forest, you see this giant tree, and underneath this big tree is this canopy, and underneath the canopy in a Sequoia forest is this lush ecosystem. And that's what it is. So we're all going after trusted executives. I only want to talk to people who are VP or higher. That's it. I learned the value of that a long time ago. And by the way, and sometimes I only want to talk to CMOs, sometimes I only want to talk to CFOs or CIOs or whatever it might be. There's markets for that because there's riches in the niches. And so people form these communities based upon roles, size of business, industry, geography, or solving a problem. That's primarily what we see in the C-suite, right? And in the communities themselves. So I said, why would we just have one? Why just have a CEO group? Why don't we have them all? And there's some similarities, and they have to work together to make the business work. And so that's all we said we were going to do. Let's go create a platform. So now we have the media platform. So we have C-Suite Radio, C-Suite TV, C-Suite Book Club, all the things around it, C-Suite Network Advisors, trusted executives who serve the C-Suite. So we have these pieces to be able to elevate the story of any business. Because in today's world, this, you have to be a media company. If you're a dry cleaner in St. Louis, okay, there are 119 other dry cleaners in St. Louis. I looked them all up, and you have to become the doctor of spots. You have to differentiate yourself, or you're going to be spending a ton of money on Google and now, of course, with AI, if you're lucky enough to be recognized as a real leader in that category, you have to become the thought leader in St. Louis if that's where you're working, or in the industry for which you're out there on that territory. And so what we do is we create this way of getting into media to use that, because podcasting, television, still video, and is going to be publishing, because we picked up the C-Suite bestseller list as well, right when the Wall Street Journal, Wall Street Journal shut it down. We said, we're in, we'll pick it up. That's not going away. That's still valuable. The next is then the communities. So we need great communities like Board of Advisors, the Women's Coaching Council, Women's Leadership, the Manufacturing Council, the AI Council, and I can keep listing them all out. I don't have enough fingers and toes to list them all out. And so what we do is then say, come, let's get together and let's share in what we do, because what I do well, meaning this group and this group, they all do together and help each other. So again, we provide those platform services. And then last but not least is you got to market them. So one of the best marketing groups I've ever seen in my life is Amazon. So why don't we create a marketplace where we can go to a marketplace of people that need this, and we can say, these are our trusted businesses that we want to do business with. Because today, I don't know what's behind a LinkedIn profile. I don't know if that's really real or not. Of
course.
A website, I don't know if that is. Now it's going to get worse with AI. But I do know what works is when you tell me, because I trust you, right? Because of your experience and who you are. And as I get to know you even better, I trust you even more. And you say, this is a friend of mine. This is someone you should know. So the strength of the network, right? That's important. And that never goes away. I can remember when I was the CMO of Kodak, and a CMO of a major company would call me and say, Jeff, how did you get out of your NASCAR contract, right? How did you do that? Jeff, who are you using for this? How about this deal? How did you pay? We're thinking about sponsoring the Olympics. How do you guys do that, right? That's valuable conversations. But you can only do that at a peer-to-peer level.
Right.
So, but you got to have a peer-to-peer group to be able to pull these together.
That's the answer to everything.
Totally.
I really believe it's the answer to everything in business. I mean, you've got to have that go-to, whether it's a good situation or a bad situation.
Yeah.
You've got to have those go-tos, and we spend our careers building those. And
but
we
look
use
at this
them every day.
Yeah, and we're gray. Someone said that to me. It was the other day. The young person was saying, I don't want to slight you because I'm saying this because I know you're older, but you're pretty hip to all this stuff, right? I said, well, I'm a millennial in a baby boomer body. That's what I said.
Yeah.
But I heard someone on the stage, not here at this particular event, that said recently, it's all about relationships. And I said, when the hell did it stop being about relationships? Trusted relationships are more important today than ever, especially with AI. And there are certain things we're not going to be able to codify. There's certain things we're not going to be able to digitize. Now, we can make access to those. We can have software, like there's a software called My Deep Trust, which allows you to look at all of my relationships, all the things I have. Who do I interact with the most? Who do I go to the most for what subject, what item? And then I can go and look at my friends, and it will tell me who they have and where the matchup. That's some software, but it's still going to mean me talking to you saying, hey, Jimmy, do you know this person that's over here? Can you introduce me to that person? Right?
Exactly.
And that's the value. Mm-hmm. I spend a good hour or two a day introducing people.
Right.
And
no, it's what really makes the world go round.
Totally.
I mean, and that that sounds cliche-ish, but it truly is. And it's it's not that you have them in your LinkedIn. That doesn't mean you have a relationship. It means you have their contact information.
Right.
That's entirely different than saying, hey, buddy, you got an idea here, or I got a problem here, or you know somebody here, and we both have, that's the biggest asset you and I both have. And, you end up, even though we're the greatest 40-year-olds in the world, it takes a little while.
Thanks for giving us that. I appreciate it.
It takes a little while.
Yeah, you got to have the experience of knowing that, because you could have, we have 350,000 execs as part of our network. But do I know them all? No, of course not. And even on the people that LinkedIn, I've got 35,000 because that's what LinkedIn says. You can only have 35,000.
Right.
And then another 100,000 followers or, Twitter followers and all this kind of other stuff. But I may know them, I may not. But I'll tell you one of the things that does help is the experience or the network that you've had or the reputation that you have will let you get in the door. When you're a C-suite executive, I know that I can get a phone call with another CEO or CMO because of my relationship at that position. They respect that because you've been there, done that. Like I used to always have this saying, $1 billion companies like to do business with $1 billion companies. Okay.
Of course.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Safe.
Yeah. There's only 15,000 of those in the country, but that's a small universe. Just like I was a CMO of a Fortune 100 company. There are more people playing professional football in the United States than there are Fortune 1000 officers, when you think about that. So that's a very elite.
Say that again?
Yeah. So if you take Fortune 100, that's only 500, take 5 officers per company, roughly. That's stretching it. There's 500 officers. If you take a Fortune 1000 list, that's 5,000. There are more people in the NFL than there are Fortune 1000 officers.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that's a small elite community because there's so many times in my day that people say, hey, I need to know this person. And I go, oh, that's so-and-so or that's so-and-so because we've walked the ground. We've been there. Mm-hmm. And if you're at a company like a Kodak or I'm on 14 corporate boards today, 4 of them publicly traded companies, you meet a lot of people. You see a lot of people. And if of course, I've done Bloomberg. I've had my own show. Of course, I've got on C-Suite TV. I film my show at the New York Stock Exchange. I typically only interview billion-dollar companies. Yeah, you get to know a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah.
And hey, Chris Dennard, I assume you know Chris. He's been one of our founding members, and he's a lot of fun and is a sincere and genuine person. He's got a company called Dugout Mugs, which is really unique. And
he's been on my show.
Oh, perfect.
He was been on my during COVID.
Of course he has.
During COVID, I love to interview great, interesting new people, and he was one of those. And so we had him on the show.
Yeah, of course. I would have known that had I thought about it. Well,
but he was a startup. He was a startup, but it was really cool. My PR people, because my criteria for being on my show is you got to be $1 billion company, right? You got to be an icon in your category, right? Because like next week, I'm interviewing the CEO of FIFA. All right. I'm interviewing the chief marketing officer of Dow Jones. And I can't even remember who else, but somebody, the Formula One, I think. Formula One as well. So this is a big sports week. Sure. So, but yeah, so my criteria is $1 billion. You got to be iconic in the industry, or you got to be somebody I really like, or something that's interesting. Like Chris was a great product. I thought, wow, why wouldn't someone have thought taking baseball bats and making glasses out of them or tumblers out of them?
It's so obvious.
It's like, hello, yeah, that makes perfect sense. If you're a huge baseball fan, raving fan, that's what you're going to do. And of course, now he's not just doing the wood; he's also doing the aluminum too. Which well, that was brilliant,
Yeah, he's doing all sorts of interesting things. Yeah. But he created Dugout Mugs. He created the brand. He created his brand. And what he likes to say is, it's not that I tell somebody I know Jeffrey Hayzlett. He wants to be able to say Jeffrey Hayzlett knows me. Yeah, and that's what he lives by, and that's so true,
that's
right?
Cool.
He doesn't name drop; he name drops who knows him.
Yeah,
and I thought that was such a cool concept for everybody that listens.
Yeah,
to
that's
this.
Really good.
He's got some disciplines that are just amazing, that are very simple like that. But he hit me with that. I'd never heard that before, and then you start. I've been messing around the last couple of days trying to stick to that discipline. It's really difficult.
Yeah,
that'll drive you a little crazy when you start.
Well, but the good news is a lot of being what I did at the time, being a judge on Celebrity Apprentice for 4 years, doing Bloomberg as a primetime show, and now having a network, know a lot of people too. So that helps a great deal.
Yeah, for sure. I just thought that was a neat little anecdote that I picked up this week.
It's always, I call those keepers. When you come to an event like this, you should have your, I write old fashioned, I'm sure you do the same thing. And I write notes and I have my keepers. My keepers are the things that, the takeaways that you have. And I think that's important to have those. Yeah.
I even started writing really large so I can see them without fumbling for my glasses. So I have lots of tablets filled up.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is certainly a real challenge, and it's a masterful thing to be able to navigate organizations like ours, right? Yeah. Because a lot of people could come, and if they don't have some of the skill sets, they can't optimize their relationship with C-suites or board of advisors or whoever it is. So that's maybe there's an inbound indoctrination or something. We should be.
But you got to get smart about what you want. I always tell people, and my son is our chief marketing officer. I think he's the best CMO I've ever met in my life, and I was really good. So not bragging if it's true. So he just says, "What problem are you solving?" So every time I go to a meeting like this, I'm thinking, what is that I want to get out of it? What's my conditions of satisfaction? And if I'm working with them as a partner, what's my mutual conditions of satisfaction? I will tell you that before we have a reception, if we do a reception, as we do in Dallas and Orlando, Vegas, Phoenix, New York, before that reception, we know who's coming. So we run a profile on every single person, a picture, who they are, background information, a quick link so that we can link to their bio or their background if we want to know more. And then, how big is the company, how many employees, all the kind of things. And then based on our criteria, we rank who we want to make sure that before they get out of that room, we've talked to them. And then we have a pre-meeting, and of course we make assignments. Same thing coming to this room here. I know who's going to be here because you have an app. You tell me who's going to be there, and I run the same kind of thing. So I know at least the 4 or 5 that I want to make sure that we get. But I'm always looking for those ponies because, I think we as we were waiting for the team to come and do the interview, you and I were talking, and I said, it's amazing how much we have to prepare, and you want to, or that people come with the idea, they already know all the answers. And I think the greatest strategic thing you can do as a C-suite leader is not be aware of what you're not aware of. So to always be open to something different, the different outcome. Now, your job is not to be the smartest person in the room. Your job is to be the most strategic. So we constantly have to be strategic. But knowing that, because I don't know as much as the CFO, I don't know as much as the CIO. But I know enough of it that I need to be strategic about what problem we're solving.
And I would argue in our roles, especially in these high network, high community environments that we're in, that we have to be curious.
Oh, totally.
All the time. And we have to challenge status quo, and we have to put ourselves in the bodies and minds of our clients and our associates. So.
Well, that's being aware. I'm a hunter, and when you're hunting and whether you're in a stand or you're stalking or you're, walking with dogs, with birds or whatever, you have to constantly be aware, ready, and I think that's our role, is really to do that. Be looking for the, whoa, did you see that? That kind of thing. Or did you hear that? And it's amazing though, you've been in these situations. I've been in major boardrooms where, making presentations at my younger career, and the CEO would pick up the book or the investor would pick up the deck and would start flipping through, and then on page 62, whatever it was. Question. Yeah, and just zero in on the one thing, that, might be your Achilles heel, or it might be the best thing you got. And it's like, it was just uncanny how they do that.
Man, this has been great. We're going to have to go. I'd rather stay around here. This is so much fun talking to you, so we'll do it again, maybe on C-Suite.
Yeah, we'll have you guys up. We'll have you guys up to the Wall Street, or not Wall Street, up to Wall Street. I film on the New York Stock Exchange, right on the floor, so we'd love to have you guys.
I'd love to do it with you. That's great.
Cheers,
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.